When Adolf Hitler assumed the chancellorship on January 30th, 1933, and declared himself Führer of the Third Reich, he ordered the Reichsführer of the SS, Heinrich Himmler, to create a kind of Praetorian Guard to serve as his personal escort and protection. Tasked with this duty was Gruppenführer Sepp Dietrich, who selected 120 volunteers from the Stoßtrupp Adolf Hitler, who underwent special military training before being grouped into the SS Stabswache. Sepp Dietrich was a former member of a right-wing radical organization called Stahlhelm. After his time in the SA and his service in Munich, Dietrich resigned from the SA and joined the National Socialist Party in 1923, which was banned in Germany following the failed attempt to seize control of the Bavarian government, known as the Putsch. For the next 3 years, Dietrich was essentially unemployed, taking on occasional odd jobs in Munich. In 1928, as the National Socialist Party regrouped and regained power in Germany, Dietrich rejoined and was assigned to the burgeoning SS. He joined the SS on August 1, 1928, and was appointed as SS Führer at the party's national headquarters in Munich. The Stabswache stationed its personnel at the Alexander Barracks on Friedrichstrasse Street in Berlin, very close to the Reich Chancellery, where from May 1933 onwards, it expanded its staff with 3 new companies grouped into the Sonderkommando Zossen. These units, which had been previously trained by gendarmerie commissioners and officers of the Weimar Republic Army, were tasked with thwarting anti-terrorist missions and dispersing potential demonstrations by left-wing revolutionary groups. Thanks to numerous enrollment requests, in June 1933, 3 new companies were recruited and integrated into the Sonderkommando Jüterbog, which was later merged into the Sonderkommando Zossen in September during a celebration of the National Socialist German Workers' Party Congress that culminated in the creation of the Adolf Hitler Standarte. This new guard was presented to the public on November 9, 1933, in a ceremony in front of the Feldherrnhalle Temple in Munich, where they pledged allegiance to the Führer. "I swear to you, Adolf Hitler, Führer and Chancellor of the Reich, fidelity and valor. I promise obedience to you and to the superiors designated by you. May God help me." This division was definitively renamed the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler. By late 1933, the Leibstandarte was stationed at the Berlin-Lichterfelder Barracks with a personnel of 986 German and Austrian soldiers, which was expanded in 1935 to a total of 2,551 troops. Among their duties was to protect the Reich Chancellery through mobile or fixed patrols on 24-hour shifts, as well as escorting the Führer to rallies and public meetings. At the same time, they also performed some secondary tasks, such as guarding the Gestapo headquarters, and some members were chosen as Hitler's aides in roles such as servants, chauffeurs, or waiters. While the Leibstandarte was being established in Berlin, other similar units were simultaneously proliferating in Germany independently of the Allgemeine SS. Dubbed the Verfügungstruppe, these shock forces were made up of political paramilitary troops who underwent strict training focused exclusively on sports and athleticism. In June 1934, during the infamous Night of the Long Knives, the Leibstandarte carried out the task of eliminating unwanted members, such as Ernst Röhm, who had fallen out of favor with Hitler due to his open hostility towards him, causing conflicts with the Reichswehr. Sepp Dietrich and Theodor Eicke were the executioners of Röhm. Other SA members and SS subversives were also eliminated. As a result of the services rendered on that day, Hitler promoted Sepp Dietrich to SS Obergruppenführer, and the division Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler commanded by him received special treatment, rising to the elite division of the SS. By 1935, the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler had around 2,660 members. Combat training became extremely rigorous and the selection process even stricter. This fundamentally differentiated it from the Wehrmacht. Additionally, Himmler sought to separate and give autonomy to the SS from the Wehrmacht, which did not view the formation of parallel combat troops favorably. On the other hand, Josef Dietrich, in addition to Hitler, managed to obtain the necessary autonomy from the SS organization, bypassing Himmler himself. The Leibstandarte was funded directly with state funds rather than party funds. Unlike the rest of the SS, it was provided with the best instructors, firearms, artillery, and training. Dietrich, in his effort to make this special unit autonomous, generated rivalries with other SS divisions. However, the conflicts did not split the Leibstandarte from the rest of the organization. What prevented complete independence was logistical provision. The SS depended logistically on the Wehrmacht. To avoid conflicts with the Wehrmacht, Hitler placed them under the administration of the same army as support divisions. However, he also desired complete autonomy for his elite troops. For training and indoctrination, a war academy was established in Bad Tölz, thanks to the initiatives of Paul Hauser. The official headquarters of the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler was installed in Lichterfelde near Berlin. Despite Dietrich's opposition, Hauser acted as a liaison between the SS and the Wehrmacht, partly cushioning the obstacles. In the following years, Hauser served as inspector of schools and the newly created Waffen SS. He soon became known to his students and comrades in arms as a brilliant leader, friendly, fair, well-disposed to all but also energetic, earning the title Papa Hauser, a name he would keep until his death. In the selection of individuals for the Leibstandarte, certain requirements had to be met. These requirements, set by Himmler, included having an Aryan certificate duly signed by Himmler himself, minimum height of 1.78 meters. If 2 centimeters shorter, they could access the Totenkopfverbände, an SS subunit. Superior physical and intellectual abilities. Physical appearance in accordance with the standards of Walter Darre. In general, the Leibstandarte SS soldier was considered superior to the Wehrmacht soldier in both physical aptitude and military capability. Every recruit remained in the novice state until they passed ideological indoctrination, infantry and armored courses, all held in SS schools. Exercises often involved live fire, and a soldier had to be capable of placing a magnetic mine on a passing tank. Many of the instructional tactics were devised by Reinhard Heydrich. The instruction overall was as rigorous as that of the renowned British commandos. Fundamentally, this policy to form super soldiers was supported by the initial mockery from the SA under Röhm towards the SS, branding them as worthless soldiers of the asphalt. In Bad Tölz, the academy boasted a football field, boxing halls, comprehensive gyms, pools. Nearly all instructors were Olympic champions in their respective fields. The course was supplemented with mountain training, assaults on hostile beaches, neutralization of booby traps, and conducting raids as commandos in enemy territory. Hauser's idea was to create a super soldier athlete capable of rapid assaults on enemy positions, handling dangerous situations, assuming leadership in combat, and proposing initiatives to superiors. On the ideological front, aspirants were deeply indoctrinated in their hatred towards Jews and communism. This was crucial as they would carry out repressive tasks against populations declared enemies of the Reich. The aspirant or novice could freely resign if they couldn't endure the training. After taking the oath, the bond was unbreakable until death. In fact, during training, psychological pressure was applied to encourage novices to quit the SS. Thus, those who couldn't withstand the psychological pressure or physical training were filtered out. The end product was proven loyal super soldiers. This technique is still used in the training of commandos and special forces in the United States. As the war approached, Heinrich Himmler requested the formation of several combat units from the SS Standarten, subject to SS disciplinary frameworks and outside the jurisdiction of the Wehrmacht, so that the forces of the Waffen SS were solely accountable to Hitler and tacitly directed by Himmler, ensuring they were equipped with the best quality training, supplies and ammunition, superior even to those of the Wehrmacht. Recruitment would also be rigorous and selective, demanding outstanding physical and mental skills, as well as an impeccable Aryan origin from aspirants. At the beginning, the Waffen SS units were equipped with second-hand weapons, and the material and equipment of many units originated from Czechoslovakia and Austria. This policy continued throughout the war, except for a select group of divisions formed with personnel of German origin, which were provided with the best equipment. Most of the high-quality material and equipment were also allocated to equip other elite divisions of the Wehrmacht, such as the Panzergrenadier Division Großdeutschland, the 130 Panzer Lehr Division, and the Hermann Göring Division of the Luftwaffe. The three resulting units, Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, SS Verfügungstruppe, SS Totenkopfverbände, were properly armed and participated in the invasion of Poland. The performance of the Waffen SS was mediocre during these campaigns. The initial poor performance of the Waffen SS units was mainly due to Himmler's emphasis on political indoctrination and blind adherence to National Socialism rather than purely military instruction before the war. This was largely due to the shortage of experienced instructors, who preferred to remain with the regular army, which was considered more technical than ideologically charged combat units like the Waffen SS. The experience gained in the campaigns in Poland, France, and the Balkans, and the unique training methods, soon transformed the Waffen SS into genuine elite units. Conceived as a Nordic army, according to its theorists, the Reichsführer of the SS, Heinrich Himmler, decided to implement his idea between late 1940 and early 1941. Thus, the project of the Nordic Legions was born, composed of foreign volunteers of Nordic or Scandinavian descent from occupied Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, and the Flemish part of Belgium, as well as from neutral Switzerland and Sweden, or the co-belligerent Finland. Among the most famous units were the Norwegian Legion Norvegen, composed of Norwegian volunteers, the Danish Corps Freikorps Danmark by Danes, the Dutch Legion Nederlander by Dutch, the Flemish Legion Flandern by Flemish Belgians, and the 3rd Swedish SS Grenadier Company by Swedes, which eventually merged into the 11th SS Grenadier Division Nordland. Simultaneously, new mixed formations of Germans with Nordics and Scandinavians were created, such as the 5th SS Panzer Division Viking, under the command of General Felix Steiner, or the 6th SS Mountain Division Nord, which included some Finnish skiers. However, the organization of exclusively German forces also continued, such as the expansion of the SS Division Verfügung into the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, led by General Paul Hauser. If the Second World War had ended between 1940 and 1941, as expected by the highest echelons of the Third Reich, the Waffen SS would have been a purely Aryan and Nordic army, as initially envisioned by its proponents. However, factors such as the prolonged duration of the conflict, its extension beyond Northern Europe to other theaters, and above all, maintaining alliances with vastly different countries that racially bore no resemblance to Germany, undermined the National Socialist propaganda of justifying the war as a defense of German blood purity. In fact, this unexpected geopolitical turn of diplomatic and strategic situations forced the Third Reich to adapt its principles within a gradually globalizing world, and consequently led the Waffen SS to outwardly set aside National Socialist doctrine and begin to include the much more appealing fascist doctrine. As a result, the Waffen SS ceased to be an army composed of Nordic legions and became an army of foreign legions, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, or religion. When the Axis initiated the invasion of the Soviet Union in Operation Barbarossa on June 22, 1941, the Waffen SS for the first time would have a significant participation with numerous troops. According to their assigned zones, the deployment was as follows. The Northern Army Group included the 3rd Division Totenkopf and the 4th Division Polizei. The Central Army Group had the 2nd Division Das Reich. The Southern Army Group had the Panzer Divisions Leibstandarte and Viking, and the Finnish Army Group had the 6th Mountain Division Nord. Operationally, the performance of the Waffen SS in the Soviet Union campaign was highly positive in all aspects. The 2nd Panzer Division Das Reich contributed to the destruction of the Minsk pocket and the subsequent capture of the Belarusian capital, while the 3rd Panzer Division Totenkopf was crucial in the occupation of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, just as the 4th Division Polizei played a significant role in besieging Leningrad. However, the greatest success came in Ukraine with the 1st and 5th SS Panzer Divisions Leibstandarte and Viking, after capturing 500,000 Soviet soldiers in the Kiev pocket, which constituted the largest victory in military history to date. With the conflict becoming global after Japan's attack on the United States at Pearl Harbor at the end of 1941, the Waffen SS greatly expanded its forces to 200,000 men in anticipation of what was expected to be a resource-consuming struggle. This led to the creation of new German and Volksdeutsches formations from the Carpathians, such as the 8th SS Cavalry Division Florian Geyer, which fought in the Battle of Rzhev, or the 9th SS Panzer Division Hohenstaufen, which acted as a garrison force on the coast of France. On several occasions, the Waffen SS were criticized by the regular army due to their indifference to combat casualties. However, the Waffen SS divisions proved to be exceptional and disciplined units, especially during Operation Barbarossa, demonstrating great efficiency in combat. The rigorous training and excellent supply of weapons and ammunition made the Waffen SS units highly prestigious in military terms, coupled with absolute and fanatical obedience to Hitler. The combination of these traits made the Waffen SS the Führer's preferred military units. The Waffen SS truly demonstrated their valor during the Third Battle of Kharkov, where the 2nd SS Panzer Corps under the command of Brigadeführer Paul Hauser recaptured the city and halted the Soviet offensive, saving the forces of Erich von Manstein's army group, following the Axis defeat in the Battle of Stalingrad in February 1943, which shifted the course of World War II in favor of the Allies. The Waffen SS grouped the Leibstandarte, das Reich, Totenkopf and Viking divisions into the SS Panzer Corps, equipping them with new Panther and Tiger tank models. This consolidation of forces led the Waffen SS to reconquer the city of Kharkov, dealing a significant blow to the Red Army, and subsequently to Operation Citadel, which continued with the Battle of Kursk, where the SS Panzer Corps destroyed over 300 Soviet tanks in a single day at the Battle of Prokhorovka. In this SS Panzer Corps were practically the best soldiers and commanders of the entire German army. At the forefront was the Leibstandarte, led by Sturmbannführer Teddy Wisch. One of the finest soldiers in this division was Werner Wolf. Wolf was awarded the Knight's Cross on August 7, 1943, while serving as an aide to Joachim Peiper in the 2nd SS Panzergrenadier Battalion. Peiper recommended Wolf for his actions after taking command of the 13th Battalion. Following the injuries suffered by his commander during the Battle of Kursk in early July, Wolf halted the attack of a Russian tank. Wolf destroyed a lone tank and refused to surrender on the battlefield in the face of the Russian assault. In November 1943, Wolf was shot in the thigh and had to have his leg amputated. However, when the medical order came to operate on him, Wolf showed his pistol and warned the doctor that he was not willing to lose a leg, even firing a shot into the ground as a warning. Wolf then made a full recovery. At that time, Joachim Peiper held the rank of Obersturmbannführer. On March 12, 1943, was one of the key days for Peiper. In the midst of the Third Battle of Kharkov and disobeying orders from higher command, Peiper conducted one of his characteristic attacks, bypassing several towns and after a flanking march to the east of Kharkov, seized the northern river crossings at the Lopan River, preventing Soviet reinforcements from reaching Kiev. This blow would be the key to Peiper's entry into Kharkov, later earning him the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. Another distinguished soldier of the Leibstandarte at Kursk was Panzer Ace Michael Wittmann. Wittmann was part of the southern wing that moved out from Bykovka and attacked Streletskoye. His first victim was an anti-tank gun that he obliterated, followed by an OT-34 flamethrower tank engulfed in a fireball, and finally, a second piece he crushed with his tank's tracks, before popping out of the hatch to gun down several infantrymen with his MP-40 submachine gun. In just the first day of Kursk, he eliminated 8 tanks and 7 guns, while during the second day on July 6th, he neutralized an artillery battery after emerging from a forest near Lutsk and destroyed a KV-1 tank. Similar successes were repeated on July 7th near Tetrovino, with 7 more tanks pulverized and 19 guns. However, his greatest test came during the Battle of Prokhorovka, when a Soviet armored corps charged his unit, trying to close the distance to penetrate the Tiger tank's armor more easily. Wittmann responded by blowing up one T-34 after another in the midst of a true hunt. By the end of the Battle of Kursk in mid-July, the daring Bavarian tanker had racked up 30 destroyed tanks and 36 artillery pieces. In the 2nd Panzer Division Das Reich, Sturmbannführer Christian Teixen stood out. He was one of the most respected combat commanders of Das Reich and was legendary for his bravery in battle. Das Reich Division had a fearsome combat reputation, participating in nearly all major engagements of World War II. It performed exceptionally well under some of the most capable and energetic commanders of the Waffen SS. The tanks of the Panzergrenadier Division Das Reich played a key role in the Kharkov campaign in early 1943. The division eliminated a total of 292 Soviet tanks and Su vehicles in the Kharkov-Belgorod campaign, while losing 77 tanks and assault guns. Sturmbannführer Christian Teixen's command tank was a Panzer II. He was an inspirational leader who preferred to command his units from the front line amidst the action, adapting powerful and fierce tactics quickly. Christian Teixen was awarded the Knight's Cross on March 31, 1943, for his outstanding leadership of the 2nd Battalion of Das Reich during the intense battles of Kharkov. He became the commander of the 2nd Regiment of Das Reich in November 1943. Most of the Flemish volunteers in Das Reich Division were concentrated in this regiment. In his division was also the brutal Freiherr von Reitzenstein. During this time, Obersturmbannführer von Reitzenstein distinguished himself particularly in the area north of Belgorod on July 8, 1943. On this day, Obersturmbannführer von Reitzenstein commanded the armoured group of the division, and his mission was to separate from the bulk of his division, oriented towards the east, and attack towards the Selle River, along with the armoured group of the Panzergrenadier Leibstandarte. The objective of this movement was to facilitate the advance of the units in the neighbouring corps. Although the armoured group could not gather all its forces in time due to the intense defensive combats that were occurring that same day, Obersturmbannführer von Reitzenstein decided to proceed anyway with the troops available at hand, to leave enough troops for the defensive battle, while carrying out his original mission of striking the overwhelming enemy armoured forces that had just arrived in front of the neighbouring corps. This independent decision led to total success despite the persistent threat on the flanks. After hard fighting, a total of 53 enemy tanks were destroyed and 10 kilometers of terrain were taken. The outstanding personal actions of the regimental commander ensured the success of this extremely difficult operation. A notable relief was subsequently felt on the right wing of the neighbouring left corps. A possible expansion of this success and a joint operation with the armoured group of the Leibstandarte, which was advancing from south to north 10 kilometers further to the west, was cancelled, as the group was called back to the main area of the division to assist in its precarious defensive battle. Unfortunately, the landing of Anglo-American troops in Sicily during Operation Husky necessitated the intervention of the Waffen SS in Italy. This included actions such as the Leibstandarte disarming units of the Italian army that had just switched sides to the Allies, or the newly formed 16th SS Panzer Grenadier Division Reichsführer, which covered the retreat of German troops from Sardinia, Corsica, and southern Italy in the fall of 1943. Simultaneously, in the Soviet Union, the SS Panzer Corps and the new 12th SS Panzer Division, Hitlerjugend, composed of teenagers from the Hitler Youth, continued to fight. They first engaged in combat at the Kuban River bridgehead, then in the Donets Basin, and later on the banks of the Dnieper River, inflicting significant losses on the Russians, as seen in the Battle of Zhytomyr. By early 1944, the situation was extremely delicate for the Axis, and thus the Waffen SS had to maximize their performance. One of the prime examples was the Battle of the Korsun-Cherkasy Pocket, where the Das Reich and Viking divisions were rescued from the encirclement by the Red Army, thanks ultimately to the intervention of the Belgian SS Panzer Grenadier Division under the command of General Léon de Grelle. De Grelle, who survived over 50 close combat engagements, was decorated with the Iron Cross for his actions. Simultaneously, in the Battle of Narva in the Baltic states, SS units such as Nordland, the Latvian SS Grenadier Divisions, and the Estonian Grenadier Division heroically resisted Soviet assaults. inflicting over 500,000 casualties on the enemy at the cost of very few of their own. This prevented the collapse of Army Group North and facilitated the withdrawal to the Courland Peninsula along the Baltic Sea. Only in the Arctic, specifically in Lapland, did the 6th SS Mountain Division Nord and the SS Ski Battalion Norwegian encounter some difficulties in maintaining the front line in Finland. Meanwhile, in Italy, the 16th SS Panzer Grenadier Division Reichsführer and the 29th Italian SS Grenadier Division repelled Anglo-American forces in the Battle of Anzio. Following the shortage of men after the defeat at Stalingrad, General Gottlob Berger, a prominent figure in the Waffen SS, who had previously been involved in recruiting foreigners, proposed as an urgent measure the incorporation of members of the Hitler Youth born in 1926, who at that time would be between 16 and 17 years old. Adolf Hitler was captivated by the proposal, and on February 10, 1943, he approved the conscription of 30,000 underage individuals. Coincidentally, in early June 1944, the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend was transferred to the Belgian city of Hasselt instead of being sent to the Eastern Front as planned. Shortly afterward, it crossed the border into France to station its various units, consisting of 20,540 personnel, 229 tanks, 658 armoured vehicles, and 2,000 vehicles along the northern towns of Bernay, Évreux, Chambois, and Trun. This undoubtedly facilitated matters when the Normandy landings occurred on June 6, because at 14:30 on D-Day, the entire 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend was mobilized towards Caen, a city close to the Juno and Sword beaches where British and Canadian forces had landed. The journey of the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend to the beaches of Normandy was difficult due to Allied aviation, which caused some casualties among vehicles, although the 12 and Anti-Aircraft Artillery Battalion also retaliated by shooting down some aircraft. Traffic jams on the roads didn't help either, so the vanguards of the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend did not reach Normandy until nightfall, after establishing themselves in the town of Christaux, 10 kilometers from Caen. At 10 o'clock hours on June 7th, the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend deployed between Christaux and Caen with 50 Panzer IV and Panther tanks, establishing its headquarters atop the tower of Ardennes Abbey. Unexpectedly, these forces launched a surprise attack on the Canadian 27th Armoured Regiment, expelling them from their positions in the area after reconquering the German soldiers at Auty, Franqueville, and Puteaux-en-Bessin, before being halted near Buron by enemy anti-tank guns. During this assault, the Canadians lost 28 tanks, while the Germans lost only 5 Panzer IVs. One of the greatest feats of the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend during the Battle of Caen was the heroic action of 24-year-old volunteer Émile Dürr on June 26, 1944, in the town of Saint-Manvieu. It all happened when a Churchill Crocodile flamethrower tank threatened his position, prompting Dürr instinctively to grab a Panzerfaust and fire a projectile that bounced off its structure just before a bullet struck him in the chest. Enduring the pain, he returned to his lines, grabbed another Panzerfaust and fired at the tank, immobilizing it by destroying its tracks, although a burst of machine gun fire wounded him for the second time. Nearly bleeding out, Dürr grabbed a magnetic mine, placed the charge on the tank, and left unfortunately. The device detached at the last moment and fell to the ground. However, Dürr did not falter. He returned to the tank, placed the mine again on the armoured vehicle, and left, being wounded in the legs for the third time. Fortunately, this time the charge exploded, destroying the Churchill Crocodile tank. Later that day, Émile Dürr would bleed to death from his wounds, earning him posthumously the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. As the Red Army unleashed the massive Operation Bagration against Belarus in June 1944, the Waffen SS suffered significant losses in personnel during the retreat towards Poland. On the Western Front, things were not any better for the Waffen SS. After the Allied landing in Provence during Operation Dragoon, they withdrew to Alsace and Lorraine, suffering heavy casualties. Fortunately, things changed in the autumn of 1944 during Operation Market Garden in the Netherlands. The SS Panzer Divisions Hohenstaufen and Frundsberg ambushed and completely annihilated British, American and Polish airborne troops at the drop zones of Arnhem, Nijmegen and Eindhoven. However, the most spectacular action took place during the Battle of the Bulge between late 1944 and early 1945, when the main SS panzer divisions broke through the forests of Belgium and Luxembourg, temporarily breaching the enemy's front lines with the new King Tiger tanks leading the way. They took over 13,000 American prisoners and destroyed hundreds of enemy tanks while advancing 100 kilometers towards Le Gleis, as did the Kampfgruppe SS Piper, led by Commander Joachim Piper, who would be decorated for his incredible feat. Surprisingly, after the failure in Hungary, Hitler harshly censured the Waffen SS, threatening to dissolve them and merge them into other units, while also ordering the withdrawal of honorary titles. This order displeased and was not obeyed by the commander of the 6th SS Panzer Army, Oberstgruppenführer Josef Sepp Dietrich, who criticized Hitler's insistence on sending the already diminished Waffen SS into almost suicidal operations. During the final months of the war, Hitler continued to criticize the Waffen SS, now composed of numerous improvised recruits after losing most of its best troops. The atrocities committed by the Waffen SS on the Eastern Front fueled a fierce spirit of revenge among Soviet forces, leading the SS division leaders to order their men to flee westward as soon as possible. In May 1945, the survivors who managed to escape surrendered almost entirely to American forces. As the Waffen SS were frontline combat units, several of their divisions were considered elite. These divisions were characterized by extremely high morale and excellent combat ability, as well as being politicized in their mission of a crusade against Bolshevism and the defense of Europe. They were also frequently provided with the best available equipment. Towards the end of the war, the SS had their own scientific laboratories and military technology development factories, controlling the production of secret weapons. The fate of Waffen SS fighters at the end of the Second World War in 1945 was tragic. All those volunteers who were captured by the Red Army, such as White Russians, Latvians, Hungarians, Romanians, Finns and others, were either immediately killed or deported to the Siberian gulags. Meanwhile, citizens with Soviet nationality who were captured by the Allies, such as Cossacks, Georgians, Armenians, Azerbaijanis, North Caucasians, Turkestanis or Tatars, were forcibly extradited to the Soviet Union in the so-called Operation Keelhaul, which had been previously agreed upon at the Yalta Conference. As a result, they suffered the same fate. Similar fates awaited volunteers in the Balkans, including Croats, Bosnians, Albanians and Serbs, who were brutally executed by the Yugoslavs in the Bleiburg massacre. Simultaneously, in Western Europe, a psychosis emerged among the new authorities and partisan groups, who tortured and murdered hundreds of French, Italian and Belgian volunteers, as well as a smaller number of Dutch, Norwegian, Danish, Luxembourgish and British individuals. Estonians who surrendered to the Czech resistance in Prague were burned alive in human pyres, while Arabs and Africans who surrendered to French colonial troops were shot on the spot, and Indians captured by the British were inhumanely crammed into cargo ship cages and transported to India to be imprisoned in the Red Fort of Delhi. Regarding the volunteers who were not killed or lynched, they endured long prison sentences in jails and concentration camps, forced labor, or the deprivation of civil rights. Only Germans, Ukrainians, Belarusians and Swedes were spared from prosecution. Germans were recognized as a regular army, Ukrainians were protected by Vatican interventions, Belarusians were granted amnesty in exchange for serving in the French Foreign Legion, and Swedes were welcomed back to their homeland as heroes due to Sweden's neutral stance. Until the late 20th century, the Waffen SS remained relatively overlooked in historiography, largely due to the recentness of World War II and the abundance of yet-to-be-documented information. However, as the end of the Cold War approached in 1991 and subsequently entered the 21st century, the Waffen SS assumed fundamental importance in the study of the last global conflict. This was because they constituted the first multinational army, bringing together volunteers from all 5 continents, from countries on both sides of the conflict, from colonies, neutral nations and more, under a common institution. This unique phenomenon not only became a reality, which was already challenging in itself, but also gained popularity because the multicultural quality of its fighters was superior to that of other combatants, both allies and enemies. They engaged in spectacular and sometimes seemingly impossible military exploits. In light of these facts, the existence of the Waffen SS became indispensable for understanding the conflict between 1939 and 1945, marking one of the most intriguing episodes in universal history.